Let's get some perspective from Daniel Levy. He's a former Israeli peace negotiator and president of the U.S. Middle East Project and joins us from London. So, Daniel, certainly a symbolic, historic decision by Ireland, Norway, and Spain. But beyond the symbolism, will it change anything?
That is indeed the important question. And if this remains just an act of recognition, then I think it will change very little. The question that I think comes next is that once these three countries have recognized Palestine, how do they act in response to the international law violations and the occupation of the territory they have just recognized as Palestinian? Do they think they have done their bit by making this symbolic gesture? Do they think that the response of the Israeli government means that they shouldn't do any more because this was quite an aggressive response by the Israeli government? If the act of recognition is followed by, for instance, saying any Israeli products produced on that territory must be banned from our respective territories, that the weapon systems, other things that Israel does in that territory are something that we have to make sure we are not in any way involved with. Our pension funds, our trade is totally cut off from that. Then this can begin to have a cumulative effect. Now, these are the three countries that have gone as far as recognition. But what I'm suggesting is the time for rhetorical, symbolic recognition is not now. We are well past that time. Israel will have to, if you want to change Israel's decision making, it will have to face actual things that matter to it. This is symbolism.
What do you make of the timing, Daniel, of all this? No sign of any type of ceasefire, any kind of truce. Hostages are still being held by Hamas. And Gaza is a war zone with more than 35,000 Palestinians gone.
Well, this has been some time in the making. The countries involved, we know, have been considering, discussing this. Some have had motions passed in their respective parliaments encouraging this. So I think the decision on the timing is related to the fact that, having been warned, having been told by its allies, don't go into Rafah, Israel has ignored that advice. The killing zones in Gaza remain in an appalling state of affairs. People have left Rafah to no safety, to conditions of humanitarian crisis. The ICC has made its designation. And what we see is an absolutely stuck mediating, negotiating process ever since Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the deal that was discussed by the mediators and accepted by Hamas. So I think you're correct to link this sense of Netanyahu staring down the international community to these decisions.
And of course, Israel is furious. They said they would summon the three countries' ambassadors to watch a video of the Hamas 7th October attacks. The U.S. is not happy either. So statehood is something that should be negotiated and not done through unilateral decisions. Is there a contradiction there?
Well, I think partly Israel is trying to put on a show of defiance precisely to try to intimidate and dissuade these countries from taking further measures. The idea that this is a gift to those who conducted the October 7th strike is farcical. It suggests that maintaining relations with Israel would be a gift to Israel's violations of international law and war crimes inside Gaza. Perhaps that's the question that should be asked. As for the US is somehow managing to embarrass itself every day in new ways, whether it's its reaction to the ICC, the International Criminal Court. This administration apparently no longer even cares to create the impression of being a law-abiding nation. Not only is Israel getting increasingly isolated, but the US itself is now isolating itself from some of its allies, at least in certain respects.
Daniel, we're running out of time. I have to ask you, my final question to you is, if the United States wanted to stop this nightmare in Gaza, would it be able to?
The United States president has to be willing to maintain a standoff, a stare down with the Israeli prime minister, and that would have to revolve around withholding, not one time to review, but withholding consistently the flow of weapons without which Israel cannot continue with this war. And Israel's security establishment would have to go to the prime minister, to the political leadership, and say, gentlemen, we cannot continue. We have issues in the north as well. What are your priorities? What are your plans? As long as the US runs cover for Israel, we can expect the devastation and the images that you have been sharing with us and with the world to continue.
All right, we'll leave it there. Daniel Levy, thank you very much.